We are talking about, of course, the identification card that the new project that was done or established by the federal government, promising that there will be a new identification card that carries about three. So today we have a guest with us. Yes, the guest will be dissecting all of these situations and issues and explaining to us what they think. So joining us via Zoom from Netherlands is a policy and research analyst with the Center for Democracy and Development, Angalapu. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning. Can you hear us? Can you hear me? I think you need to unmute your audio. You need to unmute your audio, please. Let's hear from you. Are you still with us? Okay, it's good to have you.
Yeah.
So the government.
I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you. So the government has proposed
Okay.
new national ID card with payments and social service features, saying that it is a significant development. What is your take on this move?
So thank you so much. It's quite an interesting topic, one that is also very timely. Well, I mean, it's complex. Very complex because Nigeria, as it is now, still battles with the very fundamentals of state governance. Why do I say so? The process of being a Nigerian and an identification of Nigerians, should have been something that would have taken for granted by now. But just to say that I think that having a national identification system that works, it's very important. It has, political importance, it has economic importance, it has social importance, and it has security importance. I would begin with the security implication of having a national identity card. By the records, Nigeria is made up of over 250 ethnic nationalities. And these ethnic nationalities are not ones that are, that has been that is in a very tight cohesion. We've had issues of suspicion and all of that, and then we've had several conflicts, even in Nigerian civil war, as a result of the suspicion between different ethnic groups and nationalities. Over to the contemporary era, we are having issues like banditry. We are having issues of the farmer-elder conflict, and in all of these issues, there are often issues of identity. And identity do not just begin from the social. It begins from the individual or the personal level. So a typical example would be that a farmer and a herder has a clash somewhere, maybe somewhere in the east, and automatically people will think that this herder, perhaps is from the Fulani ethnic extraction, or it's from the northern extraction in the northern part of Nigeria. But perhaps he might not even be a Nigerian. And when this herder is arrested because he can speak the Fulani language, or even the Hausa language, the security agencies also still assume that this person perhaps is from the northern part of Nigeria, or even the herder himself. If he wants to be mischievous, he simply says, well, I am a Nigerian, and then he calls a Nigerian community, and there is no way to disprove that. So there is a need for an identity management system that identifies you as a Nigerian. The Constitution has defined who a Nigerian is, but how to identify a Nigerian becomes a fundamental challenge. Now, others have talked very intelligently, and they've talked about some of the economic impact that we are facing. If the government needs to involve itself in welfareism, in social programs, our social register is not something that we should desire. We don't have an accurate number of the vulnerable or the poorest of the poor, so it is very difficult for you to reach out to the poorest of the poor. And in fact, in many cases, when palliatives are dished out, it is people that are not even within that line of the poorest of the poor that gets to achieve this. Now, why is that the case? It is also simply because we do not have a national identity system that works. So I think that even in terms of economic development and in terms of having social welfareism, it is very, very, very important. Now, over to the political aspect. If you look at the voter register that we have, people are more likely to lie about their age or even lie about their location in the voters register because of political undertone. We've seen on the voting, underage voting. We've seen over voting in some instances. We've seen double registration and all of that, and then INEC has to consistently be cleaning up the register. But people are more likely to be honest with the national identity system because perhaps for now they feel that no economic or political reasons are attached to it. So if there is a measure, it will really clean up, a lot of the issues that comes with identification, even in terms of politics, in terms of security, in terms of social and economic reasons.
Hmm. All right, with all of this, we all know there is also disadvantages when it comes to some certain issues. I mean, this card comes with a lot of functionalities and that raises security concerns. So, would you say that you're confident that the federal government would be able to safeguard these certain concerns when it comes to security concerns?
That's a very interesting question. And I think the federal government, if they're not thinking about that, they should be thinking about that very, very clearly. So it's similar to having your wallet, having your money, and having all of your valuables perhaps inside the bag or inside the wallet, and then you lost them all at once. So we are going to be experiencing a lot of issues of identity theft. So I believe the government should be looking at it in that direction. What I have not understood over time is how the federal government itself do not treat issues of identity as issues of national security. And I really do not understand that, because yes, it comes with quite a lot of risk. And just to go back, really, the process does not really begin with the national identity management or even giving a card. The most important thing is actually the number. And if the government wants to be serious with how they do these things, it has to go back to really to where it begins from, and that is the issuance of birth certificate. From birth certificate, how do we even get a local government certificate? And then death certificates, really, how are those things issued? Because if you walk up to the National Identity Management Commission, that you want to register, the first thing they will ask of you is perhaps, where is your birth certificate? Where is your local government identification? And some of these things are gotten in a very, very fraudulent manner. Maybe you just go to the local government and then you say, I'm from this community. And then perhaps if you can speak the language, or they just ask you a few questions and you've gotten it. So probably, it means that every black man can claim to be a Nigerian, especially when you can speak a Nigerian language. I think that is dangerous for security. I think that is dangerous for our politics. I think that is also very dangerous for economic reasons. So I think that having all of this in one card is something that has lots of security implications. So the DSS should be ready, the police should be ready, our security agencies should be ready, because we are going to be having issues of identity theft, becoming increasingly high. And I think that the National Identity Management Commission should not work in silos. They need to work hand in hand with security agencies and all arms of government that are involved in security and management of identity in Nigeria.
With every new every new data or social media or even technology advancement, there's always fear of privacy being invaded. We've seen how when it comes to the election, the voting, there were also a complaint by the INEC saying they were easily hacked, through their gadgets that they use. So do you have any fear of that happening also in this? Because if Nigerians are trusting the government to pour out all their data in it, is the government, or will the government be able to safeguard this in terms of privacy?
Well, yes, I have lots of fear, but the thing is, it is not like it's not happening now anyway. We just the only thing that the only difference now is that we are going to be having it in one. We have the banks that collects our data. We have the local government that collects our data. The hospitals also collect data in terms of death and birth registration and all of that, and even the local government complements that. And then we also have the road safety that collects our data, and then of course immigration for the national identity for the the international identity cards and all of that. So I think that it is not like that is not happening, and the government should begin to invest seriously in that. So I'm thinking that by now they should be thinking of a robust cyber security system, and even ways of, and even our laws, really, even our laws that deals with privacy and all of that should be reviewed, because really, if you're taking a step, towards technological advancement, you need to necessarily also prepare for the shortfalls of that, of that policy. And Nigerians have raised pertinent questions, and really, one is about the processes. They shouldn't make the processes so cumbersome. For me, I really do not think that the old identity card cannot be used alongside the new identity card. I would imagine that with time the old one will phase out while the new one continues. But they shouldn't make the old one obsolete, because the most important thing is not really having a card. The most important thing is having that unique identity number. And that is actually the most important thing. So while they are working on that, I think that one thing the government has failed, to do, and I mean, over the past 1 year, I would say they've not done that. They've not done that properly. Is the issue of communication. Why are you telling this to Nigerians when you want to roll out a new identity card in May? I mean, I think it's too late. There should have been strategic engagements, even if like a year. Keep telling Nigerians the benefits of it, the advantages and disadvantages of it. Let us even deliberate it. Civil society organizations should have a chance to interrogate the policy, even looking at the privacy and and all of the complexities that come with it. But you're telling Nigerians, by April, and giving very obscure details, and you want to implement it by May. I mean, they have the right to be apprehensive. They have the right to be afraid. They have the right to worry, especially because we are all Nigerians. We know how these things work in this country.
Speaking on that, Nigerians are a bit skeptical when it comes to, this thing, saying that this is basically just targeting the rich and elites, when it comes to this, because there is that fear that the rural people, the rural communities will not be able to participate in all of this. Do you think the federal government can put certain things in place for this, even though they promise financial inclusivity in this process?
I actually seriously doubt that. I would want to see how that happens, in terms of how they are able to register the rural people, and how they are going to even manage the system. So I seriously doubt how that's going to happen. But one important thing that we should even know and consider is the effectiveness of the commission at this time. People are complaining. People that registered even about 10 years ago haven't gotten their card. So it is actually a very reasonable worry, a very responsible and reasonable worry, to think that this might not be as successful as it should be. I mean, perhaps we should give the government some benefit of doubt, but I have that serious concern that they've not taken certain steps to ensure that this is very, very successful. And a very fundamental leeway to this is the fact that even in terms of the data we registered. So, for example, I did my registration in Bayelsa in Yenagoa, and then, of course, moved to Abuja. I'm not sure the National Identity Management Board knows I have moved, because there is no updation of data. So even the data that perhaps, even the card that they are trying to do, for Nigerians thinking it's new, the data is new, perhaps even the data is even obsolete. So there needs to be a way to even update the data. So I think that they've taken certain things for granted. Why don't they even begin with the process of self-update of data to say, okay, Nigerians, perhaps you can update your data because this is the benefit, and all of that. And if Nigerians know the benefit enough, you will not force Nigerians to request for a national identity card. I'm not sure you force an American, to try to get the card. They know the benefit. In fact, they struggle to get it. And it's only because the identity card, the management system has been very, very poor. Even to make some corrections on your name takes quite some while, and the corruption in the system. Sometimes you go there and perhaps, people ask you for money, or it takes lots of days for you to even make some few corrections. I think Nigerians should, they should be reasonably apprehensive, and I see reasons with them for that.
So this is a complex undertaking. I mean, do you see any challenges apart from the ones we mentioned? Do you anticipate it being rolling out this new ID card system across the entire country?
Yeah, I mean, quite some challenge. First, I also foresee the issue of interagency rivalry. So of course we have the road safety that issues the driver's license. We have the immigration that issues the international identity card. We have the local government that issues the local government identity card. We have birth certificate and death certificate that's also being issued. We have the bank verification number. If they've not done enough to synchronize, it's going to be particularly a very big problem. So I think that the first is even interagency rivalry. Why I think these databases have not been harmonized over a long period of time, it's simply because one agency thinks that it is more superior than the other, or perhaps even the other agency does not want to provide the data. Because really, I don't really see why we are having a voters card when we have a national identity card that perhaps can even serve that purpose. So that is actually one. The second thing is probably, it's going to be the confusion in the system. So probably Nigerians will be asked to go back to the banks again, to update their data and also to update their system and all of that. I know how hectic those things can be. People perhaps maybe some accounts might be blocked, for a while. People will lose money and all of that. So that's also one implication. The third dimension might be those in the diaspora. I don't know how they factor those people in the diaspora into this conversation. Some have the identity cards and they've gone. I don't know how they are going to come back to Nigeria, or perhaps they've established different departments or even spots in different countries for to register those in the diaspora. So I think it's actually very, 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 very complex. The benefits are there, but it is not what you need to do in a hurry. It is what you need to really have a strategic rollout and even strategic engagement plan for it to work.
So in your view as a public affair analyst, do you think that the potential of this multifunctional card outweighs the challenges involved?
Yeah, so in my personal opinion, I really think that there are lots of benefit. And I will say, just even looking at the security aspect of things. So for example, a police arrests a criminal, and then you take him to the police station and you're asking him, what is your name? So you're expecting the criminal to be honest, to tell you his name, to tell you his community. Why not just put his hand perhaps on a biodata form, or even on some microchip, and then it reveals his name, it reveals his identity, and even reveals if he has been a criminal before. I really think that is the very first step to go, really. So you are having, and you can see in Benue State, the past governor said the elders that have been terrorizing Benue State are not Nigerians. Yet there is no one that can substantially either prove that they are Nigerians or not. When we had the Okwama incident, the Senate president said perhaps they are mercenaries. Really, that is to show that there are complexities in even identifying ourselves as Nigerians. Really, so I think it is something that has lots of benefit. So I imagine that somebody can go to prison with another name, come back and change his name and get completely different identification document, and it's completely new. Really, so we don't even know ourselves. It's simply, in Nigeria now, it is simply what I tell the security agency that I am. Really, and really, it is something that we need to really interrogate. We have banditry in the Northwest. So, for example, if you've identified a bandit, or even the name of a bandit, it is simply perhaps to insert it into the system, and automatically you know where he grew up, the schools he attended, and even the places he has traveled to. So you can even tell where the ideological bent came from, where the change came from, at what point somebody that was very good in a community and also became a bad person. Really, so it tracks the trajectory of people. It also tracks if you've had a criminal record or not. So, for example, the police arrest you on the road, and you are driving recklessly, really, and then they are not able to track if you've had previous criminal record. They might simply accuse you. Maybe on that particular day, perhaps you are rushing to the hospital, or even taking somebody to the hospital. It could be an emergency situation. There is no excuse for driving recklessly, but at least they could see that, okay, this is a first timer, and of course they could warn you and tell you to be careful. But there are some people that have been very recurrent, in criminality, but yet you cannot identify them. So I think even the greatest benefit it has for us is even, it's even the fact that it identifies us as Nigerians. It identifies your neighbors, really. Beyond the fact that your neighbor speaks the Hausa, Fulani, or the Igbo, or the Yoruba, or different language, or even the Ijaw, how do you know they are Nigerians?
All right, let's talk about cost,
yeah.
Mr. Angalapu. Talk about cost. The federal government has not unraveled how much they plan on putting, into this project. And also Nigerians are a bit skeptical on the charges on them, because we know even if the federal government tends to say some things are free, the corruption tends to eat the system and makes it harder for Nigerians until they're able to pay something. So what is your take on, the cost for Nigerians and the federal government on this project?
Yeah, so I think that they are jumping the gun. They are jumping the gun, really. The program should not begin with money. This program should begin with the number. What is important is the number, not the card per se. So perhaps I could have different cards in different areas, and different places. But what's important is the card that harmonizes all my details. So whether or not I have the temporary card, whether or not I have the old identity card, it doesn't really matter. What matters really is the fact that I have a unique number. So for example, you don't need a card for your phone number. You don't need a card for your phone number, really. What you just need, your phone number identifies you. People can call you wherever you are in Nigeria, and it's just the phone number. So what is important is the number. So they should not waste Nigerians' money trying to print another card. Now, citizens are even advocating that perhaps it is not even necessary for us to have a voter's card anymore, and that if your thumbprint can work, why can't you vote? And we want to still spend money. And if you don't take time, these cards will printed from outside the country, and then increasing our forest exchange problem, and all of those. So I think that a card really is not necessary. What is necessary at this point in time is your number. If you have that number, you can even go to perhaps even a computer center to even print some temporary card. It doesn't really matter, but is the number the same? Yes, the number should be a unique identity number, but they shouldn't spend our monies, to print cards here and there, especially because when the cards are lost, I suspect that to even replace those cards will be very, very difficult. They will now tell you 2 months, 3 months is undergoing printing and all of that, and I imagine the situation that people will be in that situation once they've lost their card, especially when they need to do banking and all of the information have been harmonized. So I don't trust the process as at now, because they are trying to begin from the top to the down, and I think that they should begin from the down to the top, really, by even updating our registers, and even seeing that the basic forms of registrations have some level of integrity, like the birth certificate, the death certificate, and even the local government identification system. We should begin by cleaning up the system before we even think of having a card. We don't want to have a card, that does not have the basic levels of integrity.
You basically covered everything, Mr. Dengiefa Angalapu. We appreciate you joining us today from Netherlands to, of course, give your insight, a very beautiful insight on this matter. He is a policy and research analyst with the Center for Democracy and Development. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.